So more about fools. So this is with the divinity to do the divinity. So this is the Brahma to do. Okay, so this is what we find in this particular sutta. I think this is to do this divinity who is speaking about a person who was acting very badly towards a good monk. I think Venerable Sariputta, acting badly towards Venerable Sariputta, and then this divinity to do says this: a man is born with an axe in his mouth. A fool cuts themselves with it when they say bad words. Your axe in the mouth is the bad words. When you praise someone worthy of criticism or criticize someone worthy of praise, you choose a losing hand with your own mouth. You will never find happiness that way. So we all have an axe in our mouth. So don't cut yourself with that axe. Say the right kind of things. Don't say the bad things. And here is a very specific kind of speech. You praise someone worthy of criticism or criticize someone worthy of praise. Be careful what you say about other people. Very often we say things about others because we are attached to them. This is my teacher, this is my friend, this is my whatever family member, and because of that attachment we then praise someone who is actually worthy of criticism. Don't do that, because what you're doing is you are guiding other people in the wrong direction if you do that. So we need to be very careful to distinguish between who is really worthy of praise and who is not, and then praise and criticize accordingly. It's okay to criticize. If something is worthy of criticism, it's okay to criticize in the right way, at the right time. Not willy-nilly, not in a bad way, but when something is, if someone, does something bad, then of course it is okay to, given the right circumstances, it is appropriate to say that. So what should we do? We should be circumspect. We should anuvicca, we should investigate. And when we investigate, we come to our own conclusions, then we criticize where criticism is due, and we praise where praise is due. That is the idea here. You choose a losing hand. A losing hand is like when you play with a game, right? Mahjong or whatever. And you losing hand is that you lose at the game. You lose. That's the meaning here. So you choose a losing hand with your mouth, and if you do that, you will never find happiness that way. So don't be careful with praise and criticism. Do it in the appropriate way. Usually criticism is not a good idea. It's better to praise a little bit too much and criticize not so much. But occasionally it is required to criticize. Okay. When a fool, incompetent and untrue person has two qualities, they keep themselves broken and damaged. They deserve to be blamed and criticized by sensible people, and they brim with much wickedness. I don't know, this must be Bhante Sujato translation. I have never heard this before. They brim with much wickedness. That sounds, whoa, that sounds scary. So, right? So this is the fool again. When they have two qualities, they make a lot of bad karma. That's kind of the idea here. Without examining or scrutinizing, they praise those deserving of criticism, and they criticize those deserving of praise. We've just seen this. When a foolish, incompetent, untrue person possesses these two qualities, they keep themselves broken and damaged. They deserve to be blamed and criticized by sensible people, and they create much wickedness. So again, you can see here how it matters, the idea that we praise the right kind of people and we criticize the right ones. Now, the next one is kind of interesting here. When a wise, competent, true person has two qualities, they keep themselves intact and unscathed. They don't deserve to be blamed and criticized by sensible people or wise people, and they brim with much merit. So this is how you want to make much merit. What to? After examining and scrutinizing, they criticize those deserving of criticism, and they praise those deserving of praise. When an astute, competent, and true person possesses these two qualities, they keep themselves healthy and whole. They don't deserve to be blamed or criticized by wise people, and they create much merit. It is very interesting. Yeah, we often think that criticizing is wrong, but here we see that criticizing, when someone is worthy of criticism, actually you create merit by doing that. Now, I want to say that be careful, because that doesn't mean we should go around criticizing all the time. Yeah, this person did that, that person did that, because that becomes fault finding. Yeah, so you have to be very, very careful. However, sometimes you will see that someone does not understand, like we're just talking about now, should monastics use money or not, this kind of thing, don't understand what is going on. Or we may know about certain people that actually they may look kind of good, but behind the scenes they are doing things that aren't appropriate or whatever. And of course then we need to talk about it, because we need to warn other people they don't fall into the trap of going after. Some spiritual teachers are abusive, and we don't want other people to be abused by those spiritual teachers, so we have to warn them. Of course we should warn them. If we don't, we are obviously not doing our duty, because then they get abused and then there is a problem. And so sometimes it is right to criticize. Or as monastics we are very concerned about what is right and what is wrong view. And if something is wrong view, it is important to say that it is wrong view. Otherwise people never learn. You don't have a chance to grow. And so we criticize wrong view where it is due, and then praise right view where it is due. However, even if they have wrong view, they may have other good qualities, so we praise those other good qualities. In this way, you find a balance. It does not mean that we should go around fault-finding. It means we should criticize, but very rarely, but occasionally we will see that is appropriate. The same thing with praise. Be generous with your praise. Praise a lot. But if someone is really worthy of criticism, don't praise at that time. If a teacher is dodgy and you say, they are the best, they're an arahant, follow that teacher. Actually, they are a bit dodgy, Don't kind of say these things. There's too many people around the world going around saying, my teacher is an arahant. And they haven't got a clue what they're talking about. They are really completely clueless. Why? Because it's my teacher. My teacher must be an arahant. Why? Because it's my teacher. We want our teacher to be arahants. Everyone wants that. I don't want to say my teacher is a fool. No one wants to say that, because that's painful to say that. But we have to be honest. If we are not honest, then we are going to be taken for a ride, and then it's not going to go, things are going to go wrong because of that. So that is what this is about. But this is fascinating, because there's a tendency to think one should never criticize anything. Actually, criticism at the right time is good merit, according to this. It's very fascinating. It's very different from how we think about things. And this means you have to examine and scrutinize, as it says here. You have to look for yourself. You have to trust your own faculties. Be humble about trusting your own faculties. Don't be overconfident about yourself. But when you do things carefully and you feel something is dodgy, also don't kind of just paper it over and pretend it doesn't exist. All right. So, let us move on. This is Sutta from the Brahmana Samyutta, and the seventh Samyutta in the Samyutta Nikaya. This is with Bharadvaja, the enemy. Akosaka Bharadvaja is, I think, the Pali name of that sutta. And so let's see what happens when Bharadvaja, the enemy, comes. Sounds like it's going to be interesting here. So at one time the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's feeding ground. The Brahmin Bharadvaja, the enemy or the fiend, heard a rumor to the effect that a Brahmin of the Bharadvaja clan had gone forth from lay life to homelessness in the presence of the ascetic Gautama. So one of his family members had gone forth, right? And he was a proud Brahmin. He didn't want the Brahmins to go forth in these low-life ascetics. And so he was upset about that. So angry and displeased, he went to the Buddha and abused and insulted him with rude and harsh words. That's maybe not such a good idea. That's why he was called Akosaka Bharadvaja. I don't know if that was his real name or a name given after he encountered the Buddha. Probably not the real name. Your mummy wouldn't call you Bharadvaja, the enemy, right? That's not the kind of name that your mother will give you. So that's probably a nickname that was given after his encounter with the Buddha. So what happened then? But when he said this, the Buddha kept silent. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, sometimes no need to say anything. Sometimes you know that the other person isn't open anyway. If someone is really angry and you talk back, what is the chance they're going to listen to you? Almost zero. Yeah, very, very low. When someone is angry, they're not ready to listen. So the Buddha keeps silent, probably very wise. Then Bharadvaja, the enemy, said to the Buddha, "You are beaten, ascetic, you are beaten." Okay, so he not sure if he really understood what was going on. Yeah, he thought that someone is quiet. So he wasn't a very wise person, Bharadvaja. He was a bit foolish. Didn't really know what's happening. So then the Buddha replies, or first of all Bharadvaja says something more. No, this is the Buddha replying already. "Ha! I won," thinks the fool, when speaking with harsh words. Patience is the true victory for those who understand. Yes, sometimes foolish people think that because you're quiet, you have lost. But no, you have often won when you remain quiet. It's their problem that they don't understand that. When you get angry at an angry person, you just make things worse for yourself. When you don't get angry at an angry person, you win a battle hard to win. This is just so nice. Yeah, it is hard to win that battle, because if someone is angry with you, it's very easy to retaliate or to speak back. Yeah, it's so easy to do that. But actually standing your ground, not saying anything, just waiting, knowing that this is not your problem. If the other person is angry with you, that is not your problem. It is their problem. Yeah, maybe you think it's your problem because they're angry at you, but they're not really angry at you. They are angry because of the conditioning in them. Something arises within them that makes them angry. You could be the recipient, or someone else could be the recipient. It doesn't really matter. It could be anyone. They will get angry anyway because it is their inner conditioning coming out. So it's got nothing to do with you. So the reason why you get angry back is you feel like it's personal. Yeah, if you see someone on the street being angry on someone else, does that upset you? Maybe a tiny little bit, but it's not kind of a big deal. But if the same person gets angry with you, then it's a really big deal. That proves to you that it is personal. It is the personal that is the problem. But it is never personal. That's the point here. It is never about you. It is such a powerful lesson, because the moment you understand it's not personal, why do you get angry back? If someone is angry with you in your face, getting angry, and you just know, actually no, it's their problem. They are getting angry for their own inner conflicts or inner conditioning or whatever. You can just look at them like puzzled. Not only puzzled, but with compassion. Yeah, because you understand that they are trapped in the conditioning. This is such a teaching I teach all the time, and I've taught it, I don't know, probably every time I come here to the BGF, because it's such a powerful teaching. And I'm sorry to say, sometimes I still need to be reminded of this after all these years. Maybe you think I don't need to be reminded anymore, but the conditioning is sometimes so strong and so deep. Sometimes you need to be reminded. And so that's one of the reasons why I love this kind of simple teaching. And the moment you think like that, actually it's their problem, not yours. At that moment, instead of focusing on yourself, you start to have compassion for the other person instead. They are the one who has a problem. For you, okay, you have to bear up with that anger for a short while, but then they go anyway and life goes on. A small kind of pain that you have to deal with. The other person has a far deeper problem. A conditioning that makes them angry, and maybe they get angry very often. Some people have a very angry nature. I'm sure you met some people like that. That's terrible. They can make enormous amounts of bad karma because of that. So you stand your ground. Your job is to be patient. Allow the other person to be angry. And just be compassionate for them, or at least have equanimity. There's no need for you to say anything. Okay. But then maybe down the track there will be opportunities to say things, but right now they are not in a position to kind of accept that anyway, whatever it is that you have to say. And of course the very strange thing is that if you don't react when another person gets angry, suddenly they become a bit self-conscious. They become aware of the anger, think, well, what am I doing? That's a chance for them to change as well. But if you get angry back, that will tend to reinforce their anger, because then they will think, oh yeah, I was right, they are really bad. And so you get this angry kind of match going on back and forth, and it doesn't get you anywhere. But if you are really cool, have you tried ever to be angry at Ajahn Brahm? It's very interesting to try to be angry with Ajahn Brahm, because it doesn't get you anywhere. You get kind of self-conscious very quickly if you try to be angry with Ajahn Brahm. It's like being angry at the mountain. Doesn't really work. The mountain is not going to respond. It's your problem. So, all right. What happens next? When you know that the other is angry, you act for the good of both yourself and the other if you are mindful and stay calm. People inexpert in the Dhamma consider one who heals both oneself and the other to be a fool. So if you are not an expert in the Dhamma, if you are stupid, then you consider people who help heal both to be foolish. And this shows you that you are foolish if that's how you think about things. An expert in the Dhamma knows that you heal both, and you are a wise person because of that. So be wise, be an expert in the Dhamma, heal both yourself and the other person. So in this way you are healing both parts. You don't need to tell anyone off. Usually people know that they are stepping out of bounds. It's going to be okay. All right, that is the Akosaka Bharadvaja Sutta. So, now we come to Vepacitti. Oh, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? Vepacitti. So this is a sutta about the Asuras and the Devas fighting a battle. So we have at Savatthi, once upon a time, because now you know that we are kind of talking about mythology or fairy tales. Once upon a time and against a battle was fought between the gods and the Titans. The Titans are the Asuras, and the gods are the Devas. So I find this kind of interesting, because we often think we want to be reborn in heaven, because in heaven everything will be fine. Actually they're fighting battles. And so many things that you find in the suttas about the devas, actually they do things, they are a bit like human beings. Okay, so they have a bit, the food is a bit better, the view is a bit better from the Deva mountaintop, your mansion is a bit nicer, but at the end of the day, many of the same problems are also found in the heavenly realm. So it's kind of fascinating. So you go up there, you're going to be hired into the Devata army. And they're going to say, okay, now go and fight with those Titans. Just like Trump will take you to fight the Iranians, they will take you to fight the Titans. So there you are, Then Vepacitti, Lord of the Titans, addressed the Titans, "My good fellows, if the Titans defeat the gods in this battle, bind Sakka, the Lord of the gods, by his limbs and neck, and bring him to my presence in the citadel of the Titans." So you can see here, bind the Lord of the gods. I don't know how you can bind anyway, that's what they do. And bring him to my presence in the citadel of the Titans. Sounds scary. Would you like to be brought to the citadel of the Titans? Probably not. The Asuras are a pretty rough bunch. So please don't do that. Meanwhile, Sakka, the Lord of the gods, addressed the gods of the 33 and saying, "My good fellows, if the gods defeat the Titans in the battle, bind Vepacitti by his limbs and neck, and bring him to my presence in the hall of clear right of the gods." Clear hall of the clear right of the gods. No idea what that is about, but it's Bhante Sujato translating some obscure Pali phrase probably. So the gods and the Asuras thinking in the same way, bind them and then take them to the hall. So this kind of sets the stage, so this makes it very exciting here. So let's see what happens. In that battle the gods won and the Titans lost. So the gods of the 33 bound Vepacitti by his limbs and neck and brought him to Sakka's presence in the hall of clear right of the gods. And as Sakka was entering and leaving the hall, Vepacitti abused and insulted him with rude, harsh words. And so Madali, the charioteer handler, addressed Sakka in verse. So you bind him, you take him to and still they abuse you and insult you. Okay, that's interesting. So what happens then? And now we get this conversation between Madali, the charioteer, and Sakka. And so Madali says, "O Magava, O Sakka," Magava is just another name for Sakka, is it from fear or from weakness that you withstand such harsh words in the presence of Vepacitti? This is how people usually think, right? You are either fearful or you are weak, and that's why you don't say anything back. But sometimes it is not like that at all. It is from strength, we have just seen before. It is from strength that you don't say anything back, because you know it doesn't work, you know it is foolish. And even if you have a little bit of fear and weakness, if you do withstand those harsh words because you know that the larger reality is to, not answering back to these words, that's still okay. Fear and, having a bit of fear sometimes, if someone shouts at you, that's okay. But still, you also know at the same time that answering back is a bad idea. So this is what the charioteer thinks. The charioteer is not so wise. But Sakka is remarkably wise, the ruler of the gods. He was also a stream enterer, apparently. "It is not out of fear or weakness that I am patient with Vepacitti. For how can a sensible person like me get in a fight with a fool?" This is again, remember that the people who get angry with you, who shout at you, they are usually fools. Do you want to argue with a fool who doesn't understand? Do you want to argue with somebody who is clueless about what is right and wrong? You know that there is no winning very often argument with fools. You can see that on the internet. People arguing with each other all the time, and you can say whatever you want, but they're not going to listen to you if they are foolish. And so it has nothing to do with fear or weakness, but you know that it is kind of crazy to get in an argument with a fool. And this is what Sakka knows, and so he lets it be. Fools would vent even more if there is no one to put a stop to them. This is what but the charioteer says now, yeah? So a wise one should stop a fool with forceful punishment. This is how we often think about life, right? Someone is a fool, and so we put them in prison, or we tell them off harshly, or we do something because we think that punishment is somehow going to work. That is the usual way of the world, and it's also the way of this charioteer. Even though he was a god, he still had this idea of punishment. Then you will stop them by punishment. Really? I think that this is the only way to put a stop to a fool. When you know that the other is upset, be mindful and stay calm. We have just seen this already. And the charioteer says, is this mere withstanding Vasava? In this mere withstanding Vasava, I see a flaw. When a fool thinks he withstands me out of fear, the simpleton will go after you even harder, like a cow chasing someone who runs away. That's kind of good. So the idea here is that if the fool thinks that he withstands me out of fear, then they will go after you even harder. And sometimes that may be the case. But if the fool understands that you withstand them because you're wise, then after a while they will stop. And that's the difference. So it's not about chasing someone who runs away. It's more like just standing your ground. And when you stand your ground, the cow doesn't chase you. The chase usually only chase you if you start running. It's like you should never turn your back on a tiger. Is that right? Is that the saying here in Malaysia? Have you still got tigers in Malaysia? No yes, someone says yes, someone says no. Okay, yes, okay. So have you seen any tigers? No? Okay. Yes? In the zoo? In the zoo. We should do a jungle trek one day and look for the tigers. And when we see the tiger, don't turn your back, because they will chase you. Stand your ground and just look the tiger in the eye and see what happens. And if they... What? Tiger mum. That's even more scary, is it? Okay, because good point. Anyway, so don't run away. The simpletons, they don't understand. So then Sakka says, let him think this if he wishes or not. He withstands me out of fear. For the highest goal, one's own, naught better than patience is found. Patience is the highest austerity, like you find in the Dhammapada. Patience is one of those incredibly important qualities that we have to have in the world, because it allows us to withstand things, withstand difficult things. Don't worry about what other people think. Let him think that if he wishes. He doesn't know. He's kind of completely clueless anyway. You're not going to stop other people from thinking stupid things. Let them think stupid things. I am going to do what's right. I'm only concerned about my own conduct, not other people's stupidity. If you're going to be concerned about other people's stupidity, you're never going to have an unconcerned moment. Because there's endless stupidity. When a strong person withstands a weakling, they call that the ultimate patience. For a weakling must always be patient. If you are in a weak position, and someone lords it over you, you have to be patient because the other person is more powerful than you. So of course you have to be patient. If you like a servant in a very wealthy person's home, you have to do what the wealthy person tells you because you are in a much weaker position, depending a bit on which country you're in, perhaps. But a strong person, the one who is in a superior position, if they withstand someone who is weaker, that is kind of the ultimate patience. Because you're doing that from a Dhamma point of view. You're building up your own patience. So if you can be patient with someone who is in an inferior position to you socially, your children, the beggar on the street, the maid in your house who cleans, that is the people you want to be patient with, because those are the people in a weaker social position than you. And then if you can be patient, that's where you're showing your strength. The strength of folly is really just weakness, they say. The person who shouts abuse, they're actually a weak person. But no one can challenge a person who is strong, guarded by the teaching. If you are strong because you are guarded by the teaching, because you are practicing restraint and not holding back, you are unchallengeable. This is kind of the point here. This is a kind of person who is independent, who is has this incredible resilience in the world. When you get angry at an angry person, you just make things worse for yourself. When you don't get angry at an angry person, you win a battle hard to win. We have seen this already. When you know that the other is angry, you act for the good of both, yourself and the other, if you are mindful and stay calm. People inexpert in the teaching consider one who heals both oneself and the other to be a fool. So these are just a repetition of the same verses. Okay, let's have another short break and then do some more Q&A in a second. One of the Venerables. Piyadasi.
Yes, Bhante.
Dear to behold.
Just now you mentioned that a lot of us like to have our teacher as enlightened beings, right? So because it's my teacher. So here comes the cheeky questions. Is Ajahn Brahm Arahant?
Is Ajahn Brahm Arahant? You have to ask Ajahn Brahm. Only he can tell you. And I don't think it's good to answer those kind of questions. And of course, at the end of the day, I cannot really know. It's impossible to really know about anyone else for sure. And Ajahn Brahm doesn't go around kind of declaring these kind of things. So all I know is that I have a lot of respect for Ajahn Brahm. And after living him 30 years, that respect is what matters to me, and what I see is very positive. But everyone has to make up their own view about these things, and whether someone is, enlightened or partially enlightened or 3/4 enlightened or whatever. Make up your own mind about that. So then the way to make up your own mind is just to look at a person over a long period of time. Do they have the qualities that you would expect in someone who is well practiced, who has gone a long way on the path? And then you kind of make up you decide what is right. Yes, please.
Ajahn, may I know which is more important? When one does a meditation, am I correct in my understanding that when one builds up one virtues are a person who is not so kind, don't do the opposite to be kind, a person who is not so generous, blah, 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 blah. So that itself, when one goes on meditation, will bring about some calmness in that person, which will then evoke a person to be able to sit for meditation.
Yeah, that's right. So if you are, the more good qualities you have, the easier meditation is. That's exactly right. If you have bad qualities, meditation can often be very hard. And the reason for that is simply because you feel good about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself, you tend to be present. Yeah, because you are happy here and now. But someone who is a bad person, they don't really feel happy in the present, and so they will think about the future or think about the past. They will have a fault-finding mind, as they won't really be able to be present in the same way.
So can I equate it something like that?
Yeah.
If a person's mind, after from small till old, has got a lot of dark chi, bad chi, so then they have to cleanse themselves to be pure. Then only one can sit for meditation. Something like that.
Something like that. I mean, you can still do meditation a little bit because you can do a little bit just to be peaceful and calm, a little bit, but it will not go very deep. And so it depends how deep you want to go. So you can still use it to some extent, but you have to time yourself, and you have to do it at the right time, in the right length, in the right kind of way that is suitable for your conditions. So it will depend on your conditioning and your conditions, what is the right length and etc. for you, and also the right kind of meditation.
Oh, sorry, Ajahn. Just now you bring about this deep, that's where it provokes another question. How deep you want a meditation to be. So for a lay person like us, okay, for a lay person like us already in our seniors, so how well should we do our meditation?
How you should view your meditation?
Mm-hmm.
You should just view it in terms of whether it gives you a benefit or not. So if you meditate and you feel better at the end than when you started, then your meditation is good enough. Yeah, so let's say that you are very tired, you come home from work or whatever, and you just want to chillax a little bit, and then at the end of the meditation you feel more at ease, then that may be a positive contribution. Or maybe on the weekend when you have more time, you do a bit of meditation to become more, have a bit more metta, a bit more compassion, a bit more good qualities. You do it to build up good qualities inside of yourself. That's how you know your meditation is working here. So that's why you should choose an appropriate length of time. For many people, 20 minutes is enough. Go beyond 20 minutes is just too hard. It doesn't really work for you anymore. For some people, it can meditate a bit longer, depending on the situation. So use meditation to build up good qualities. If it doesn't do that, then it's kind of pointless. Yeah, the purpose of meditation is to do something positive in this particular way. Don't just force yourself to meditate for no reason. And then do that together with doing the other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, especially the kindness, the generosity, the right view, all of those things. And you build all of these things up together. That is the right way to think about this.
Ajahn, just now you mentioned about 20 minutes of meditation. When I'm doing meditation, I feel good after 20 minutes. Anything after 30 minutes is like restless, agitation. So in order for me to progress, what shall I do?
Just keep on doing 20 minutes. And then, over time, when you have an opportunity, you can maybe go on a retreat. You go on retreat sometimes. And then that is often a time when you can deepen your meditation a little bit. But to also just ask yourself how you can live your life, your general life, with more compassion and more kindness and more care, more metta, more karuna, and these kind of things. Because as you live that life with more of these qualities, your mind inclines more to meditation automatically. So this is why I kind of keep on emphasizing this idea that the kindness of our hearts, the generosity that we have, these are the most important things that support the meditation practice. If you are a very kind and compassionate person, you will not feel that kind of restlessness. You will kind of incline more to meditation. Another aspect is right view. Sometimes the reason why we get restless is because the mind thinks we have important things to do. And so we get it wrong, what is really important. We have the wrong priorities in life. Our priorities is often all these other things, not the Dhamma, not the meditation. But if you prioritize the Dhamma and the meditation, you don't get so restless because your mind understands what is really important. That is hard to understand, it's difficult. No wonder people don't understand that. But that is really how it works. For most of us, the priorities are to fix up problems in life, to sort out things out. But from a Dhamma point of view, they are kind of irrelevant because there's always more problems. and you're never going to solve them all, might as well let them go straight away. Yeah, that's kind of Dhamma, the Dhamma point of view. Yeah.